This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Friday, January 22nd. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us. On Africa 54. Lawyers for Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine were in court on Thursday seeking to free the pop star politician who has been under house arrest since the presidential election a week ago. David Doyle reports.
Lawyers for Uganda's Bobi Wine were once again blocked from visiting the opposition leader on Thursday. Security forces have surrounded Wine's home in the capital Kampala since last week's election, with the military saying it's for his own safety. And that's why Wine's lawyer Medard Sagona was also in court on Thursday, asking for the three partners in crime, meaning President Yoweri Museveni, the army and the police, to be issued with a directive.
To free the gentleman, his wife and his family members, and be allowed to move freely like all other Ugandans.
Museveni was declared the winner of last week's vote, which he has said may turn out to be the most cheating-free in Ugandan history. But Wine and his party, the National Unity Platform, reject the results and have said they are planning a legal challenge. A decision from the court on whether to release Wine from house arrest is due on Monday. During the election campaign, security forces routinely broke up Wine's rallies with tear gas, bullets, beatings and detentions, citing violations of lockdown laws. Wine has said on Twitter that no one has been allowed into his home and that they're running out of food and milk for his wife's 18-month-old niece. The police say they've been delivering food. Outside the court, Sagona also gave an update on his condition.
Mentally, he's better than his competitor.
He described Wine as physically like any other person who is denied food, but spiritually very strong, and said he remained determined to rid Uganda of what he called the tyranny.
That was David Doyle of Reuters reporting. Burkina Faso's re-elected President Roch Kabore has appointed a Minister for National Reconciliation as part of a vow to end the country's ethnic and political conflicts that are fueling terrorism. But resolving deep-rooted tensions will not be easy, as Henry Wilkins explains from Ouagadougou.
The Fulani are semi-nomadic herders living across Africa's Sahel region, including Burkina Faso's north, where Islamist terrorists gained a foothold in the last decade. Due to recruiting among the disgruntled, rights groups say the Fulani are often labelled as terrorists and subject to abuse or even execution. Daouda Diallo heads the Burkinabe rights group Collective Against Impunity and the Stigmatization of Communities, CISC.
We are in a situation today where some people think they are more Burkinabe than others. They think they can go and kill their neighbor with impunity.
The US State Department last year issued a report implicating the government in abuses, including extrajudicial killings and violence against ethnic minorities. Last September, 3 Fulani teenagers say a government-trained militia targeted them while they were on their way to school.
They said only the Fulanis should get off the bus. Then they whipped us with a motorcycle brake cable. They asked about our brothers, who they said are killing honest citizens. And they also accused us of reporting to terrorists information about upcoming military assaults.
Requests for comment from Burkina Faso's military police on the allegations of abuse went unanswered. Rights groups say the discrimination helps terrorists recruit more fighters, even though the Fulani are suffering the brunt of Islamist attacks. Burkina Faso's President Roch Kabore, at his December inauguration for a second term, vowed to focus on national reconciliation.
Over the past 5 years, our country has been the target of armed terrorist groups whose actions have undermined our development efforts, our social cohesion and our life together.
But half of Burkina Faso's population come from its largest ethnic group, the Mossi, farmers who for centuries have held most of the land and wealth and therefore political power. Kabore is mossy, as are 18 out of his 25 newly appointed cabinet ministers, while only 3 are Fulani. The country's first minister for national reconciliation, appointed this month, admits land wealth and discrimination are fueling tensions.
If, for instance, in an area, it happens when those who are terrorists, most of them speak Fulani, there's a tendency to the other ethnic group to say, then it's a Fulani issue. We need to educate them.
While the road ahead will not be an easy one, Kabore's ruling People's Movement for Progress party is expected to introduce a roadmap to reconciliation at the end of this month. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Ouagadougou.
A memorial service honoring United Nations peacekeepers killed in an escalation of rebel violence in the Central African Republic has been held in the nation's capital. We get more in this Reuters news report.
2 United Nations peacekeepers killed in Central African Republic last week were honoured at a ceremony in the capital Bangui on Wednesday. The nation has seen rebel violence flare in the weeks before and after a December 27th election. A Rwandan peacekeeper died on January the 13th in an attempt to capture the capital by a coalition of rebel groups called the Central African Patriotic Coalition. The same group carried out an ambush nearly 200 miles north of Bangui 2 days later, in which a Burundian peacekeeper was killed. The solemn ceremony was held at the headquarters of the peacekeeping mission and attended by UN Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary-General, Denise Brown.
Alors que le pays est en train de vivre un moment historique dans son chemin.
While the country is living a historic moment in its path towards stability and democracy, it is an unfortunate circumstance that brings us together on this day and reminds us of the dangers that we all face, and in particular our soldiers deployed on the ground in our duty to keep the peace.
At the ceremony, the 2 peacekeepers were posthumously awarded the Médaille de Chevalier de l'Ordre de la Reconnaissance Centrafricaine, one of the highest honours in the country.
That report was from Reuters News Service. On his first full day in office, President Joe Biden rolled out his national pandemic strategy that includes several executive actions related to vaccinations and testing. VOA's Patsy Widakuswara has more on the new administration's efforts to combat the coronavirus at home and around the world.
With more than 405,000 American deaths, on Thursday, President Joe Biden launched his plan to combat the pandemic.
Our national strategy is comprehensive. It's based on science, not politics. It's based on truth, not denial, and it's detailed. This next one is setting up the pandemic testing board.
Biden signed a series of executive actions, including a national mask mandate, testing and quarantine requirements for travelers, support to reopen schools, and protection for essential workers.
This is a wartime undertaking. Today, I'm signing an executive action to use the Defense Production Act and all other available authorities to direct all federal agencies and private industry to accelerate the making of everything that's needed to protect, test, vaccinate, and take care of our people.
The U.S. is also mending ties with the global health community. White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci on Thursday announced the U.S. is rejoining the World Health Organization and supporting the global effort to combat the pandemic.
The United States to join COVAX and support the ACT Accelerator to advance multilateral efforts for COVID-19 vaccine, therapeutic, and diagnostic distribution, equitable access, and research and development.
COVAX is a 92-nation vaccine collaboration rejected by then-President Trump in line with his America First vaccine strategy. The approach is criticized by those who point out that the virus knows no borders.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, other countries and our partners to ensure their stability and for our national security and economic interests, it's really important that we help as many countries as we can.
The renewed support and resumption of funding for WHO marks a departure from the Trump administration, who often criticized the global agency for its pandemic response.
This is a good day for WHO and a good day for global health.
More than 17 million Americans have received COVID-19 vaccines. The Biden administration is now focused on delivering 100 million shots in the first 100 days. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
With Joe Biden newly installed as the 46th U.S. president, some Africans say they anticipate warmer ties between their continent and America. He has already fulfilled his pledge to roll back his predecessor's travel ban on people from Muslim-majority countries, which he did on his first day in office. Still others dismissed Biden's inauguration as a non-event for Africa. They expect the new president will be preoccupied with COVID-19 and domestic challenges. Here is more of their reaction to the new U.S. president.
Many things are expected from the new president. We want him to bring reforms. As you know, we are going through very difficult times. So we want him to first reverse the travel ban imposed on Muslim countries. We had tough times with the previous administration, and we expect the new administration to change the course and open up.
I'm really happy and looking forward to this new beginning, particularly with a female vice president, Madam Kamala Harris. And I'm looking forward to what she can bring to the table. I'm sure she's the first, but she will not be the last. So I'm excited about the future of females and what females can bring to the table.
Africa can profit from the trade policies that Joe Biden is proposing. We know that countries that have huge debt from China are from Africa. Biden is saying there should be fair trade, and he's taking this approach as an international approach. And he's asking other countries to pressure China to have fair trade practices, and that's applying the loans that African countries took from China. So we're expecting a new approach in Biden administration.
We have seen the level of racism in the United States after the death of George Floyd. Hopefully, the new president will be able to work on that, fight racism, but also help the integration of young immigrants from Africa into American society.
I'm expecting a lot of change. I'm expecting equality and for the economy to also grow as well in America.
I think the nomination of Joe Biden will be much more important for multilateral cooperation with Europe, Russia, and Africa. I think African countries will benefit more, and we will see a change in global geopolitics this year.
World leaders are continuing to congratulate President Biden following his inauguration on Wednesday. As Henry Wilkins reports from London, many allies are welcoming his decision to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement.
After 4 years of turbulent transatlantic relations, the European Union Commission head offered a warm welcome for President Joe Biden.
Once again, after 4 long years, Europe has a friend in the White House. From climate change to health, from digitalization to democracy, these are global challenges that need renewed and improved global cooperation.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson had a warmer relationship with former President Trump. But Johnson said Wednesday he and Biden have a joint common agenda.
It's a fantastic thing for America. It's a step forward for the country that's been through a bumpy period.
There were big celebrations in Kosovo, where a street bears the name of Joe Biden's late son, Bo Biden, who worked in the country with the US Justice Department following the 1999 Kosovo War. US allies in the Asia-Pacific region also welcomed the new US administration.
There's a lot of work for us together, whether it's on climate, on energy, on international security, and importantly regional security here in the Indo-Pacific.
Japan's Prime Minister echoed his Australian counterpart.
I hope to closely cooperate with the new president to achieve a free and open Indo-Pacific region.
That a clear reference to the perceived threat from China in the Indo-Pacific region. In Beijing, a call for a reset in relations with Washington.
We hope that the new U.S. government will view China and our relations in an objective and rational manner.
China Wednesday sanctioned outgoing former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and dozens of other Trump officials. Biden's National Security Council called the sanctions unproductive and cynical, a response some analysts say is not surprising.
The incoming administration will also maintain a pretty tough on China stance. It's actually an era where I think we'll have some bipartisan agreement on that approach, but one that is, again, more engaged with allies in doing that.
Meanwhile, Iran's leader said the ball was in Biden's court over the future of the 2015 nuclear deal, which the US president has said he wants to rejoin if Tehran meets its commitments. Russia's ambassador to the US called Biden's inauguration a new chapter in relations with Washington. There was no official response from President Vladimir Putin. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, Heather Maxwell speaks with famed musician Yacouba Sissoko. We'll be right back.
To the table and making sure their voices are heard.
Because our lived experiences, our stories, and our voices will help shape the next generation.
Welcome back to Africa 54. President Biden has taken over as America's leader at a time of sickness, acrimony, and division. VOA's Caroline Presutti tells us more about the 78-year-old man who will guide the United States for the next 4 years.
It took 4 days of uncertain election results until Joe Biden could announce this.
The people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory.
Donald Trump would continue to question the results, rallying his supporters in what ultimately led to a riot at the U.S. Capitol. In that same spot, exactly 2 weeks later, President Joe Biden.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden,
was inaugurated amid unprecedented challenges.
To restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy, unity.
He's got a huge mess to clean up. I'm not sure that he can do all that he promises.
I don't know. He has a huge feat in front of him. Absolutely.
The same day he took office, the new president signed a flurry of executive orders, overturning Trump administration policies. He rejoined the Paris Climate Accords.
Thank you. Mr. President.
He sent an immigration proposal to Congress, creating a path to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants. He promised to vaccinate 100 million people against the coronavirus during his first 100 days. And he added this.
One of our 100-day challenges is asking the American people to mask up.
Biden has held elective office for nearly 50 years. He spent 2 terms as President Barack Obama's vice president and is known for his ability to get bipartisanship cooperation in Congress.
I know how to make government work.
He solidified his skills and connections during his 6 terms in the U.S. Senate. But tragedy struck a month after his first election in 1972. His wife and baby daughter were killed in a car crash. His 2 young sons, Bo and Hunter, badly injured. Back then, Senator Biden would ride the Amtrak train 90 minutes from Washington to Delaware each night to be with his sons. Those deep ties to Delaware were evident in a rare sentimental moment as he said goodbye on his way to the White House.
You know, it's kind of emotional for me. But look, you were with me my whole career, and through the good times and the bad.
Son Bo died of brain cancer in 2015. Biden himself has had 2 brain surgeries to repair aneurysms. He and his wife Jill, a college professor, have homes in Wilmington and Rehoboth, Delaware. Daughter Ashley was born in 1981. Residents in Wilmington call the president their hometown boy, who likes milkshakes and cheesesteaks. Bob Bird often sees Biden behind the wheel of his convertible 1967 sports car.
He's got a vintage Corvette, and you'll see him driving it around every now and then. Yes, he does like to drive.
Now, at age 78, he becomes the oldest president ever elected as he readies for his toughest political challenge yet, steering a divided nation into the future. Carolyn Presutti, VOA News, Washington.
The U.S. military has so far contained the coronavirus within its ranks, thanks in part to strict discipline and the ability to easily enforce social distancing rules on military bases. But as the Pentagon rolls out COVID-19 vaccines, it is encountering a new challenge: how to convince service members to voluntarily take the vaccine. More from VOA's Bill Gallo in Seoul.
The first doses of the coronavirus vaccine arriving at Camp Humphreys, the largest overseas U.S. military base. A big step toward protecting the nearly 30,000 U.S. troops here in South Korea. But at least for now, the military won't be forcing anyone to receive the vaccine. Military officials tell VOA it could be up to 2 years before the U.S. Food and Drug Administration gives the vaccine full approval that would allow it to become mandatory. Colonel Doug Luget, the lead U.S. medical officer in South Korea who spoke to VOA remotely, says it's an unusual situation for military leaders.
Here in the military, especially, the Army, we're not used to telling people to volunteer or asking them to volunteer for things like this. That's been an interesting thing to work through to help make sure people make good, informed decisions.
Like anywhere else, there has been some skepticism about the vaccine, which was developed much more quickly than many expected. To allay those concerns, the military rolled out educational campaigns to combat disinformation. And to set an example, senior leaders were among the first to get the shots.
I think we're hitting about the right tone with that, not ceding the battlefield to the conspiracy theorists, getting the information out there, but on the other hand, not being overbearing or strong-arming people.
Luget says the U.S. military does have experience administering voluntary vaccines, but not at this level or with this much urgency. So far, the plan is working, says Colonel Lee Peters.
Since we've seen the vaccine and the people have kind of like observed and watched and did their own research and education, we've seen those numbers grow dramatically to where I would say very few people are now saying, hey, I don't want the vaccine.
Military officials won't say how many have taken the vaccine here in South Korea. For now, frontline health workers and other critical positions are first in line. Eventually, the vaccine will be available to everyone who wants it, but it's not clear when it will be mandatory. Bill Gallo, VOA News, Seoul.
In today's entertainment segment, it's time for some beautiful live music from New York City. Host of Music Time in Africa, Heather Maxwell, met up with Yacouba Sissoko, a musician who plays with the likes of Youssou N'Dour, Baba Mal, Paul Simon, Harry Belafonte, and Lauryn Hill. But now he has new blessings to share in 2021.
Yes, I'm in New York. Now, music performance for live audiences continues to be shut down throughout the city, but musicians have been using this time to create new works. And Yacouba Sissoko is a case in point. He is a world-class kora player, a griot, originally from Mali, and he's working on his new album. We can't join him in his recording studio today, though, because of COVID restrictions. However, he's joining us right here in Midtown to give us a taste of what's to come. So, Yacouba, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
You've got a new album
Yes.
coming. What's the title?
The title is simply Blessing.
When do you expect that album to come out?
Actually, March or end of March. That's my deadline.
That's your hope. And you have been working on these pieces since this year of COVID shutdown because you have time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's hard when you're busy doing my own, performing with different artists, and you don't have a time to, or you can just do single. But if you have an opportunity to make the whole album, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a blessing.
It's blessing, exactly.
What are you going to play for us today?
Well, I'm playing the very special one, which is the title of the album itself, Blessing.
Blessing.
Kadua unyini kosoro, kadua usanuma yini kosoro Dua usanuma yini kosoro Kadua usanuma yini kosoro, lombe janyale lomse balite. I love that song, and I sing myself blessed in many ways. You know, I brought blessing from my parent back home, and that blessing followed me in America. Living here, I never work. Over 20 years I live here and I only play music. Thank God, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my own project also. I was selected as a musical explorer teacher at Carnegie Hall. So I'm doing that between here and Savannah, Georgia with my own band. So it's really going well. I feel that I'm really blessed. Kadua unyini kosoro, kadua usanuma yini kosoro Kadua usanuma yini kosoro, lombe janyale lonse balite. Kama makedua unyini kosoro Kama muso dua unyini kosoro, lombe janyale lonse balite. Tuma desera, tuma desera, Allah koni moko tekele. Thank you.
That was Heather Maxwell, host of Music Time in Africa, speaking with musician Yacouba Sissoko. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.